y'all had to bust in on me when I'm doing my dance moves, man. Welcome to chess, ladies and gentlemen. All right, man. So you know what? I figure I'll bring you guys some chess. Because you know that's what I do, homie. So I went ahead and went back to June 27th. And I have a title Tuesday between Wesley So and Sethuraman SP. So, of course, all my people that are coming from the Philippines, I would say mabuhay, maraming salamat. Anybody who is coming from Southern India who does speak Tamil, I would say vanakkam and nandri. I appreciate you guys very much. Anybody else coming from around the world, I appreciate you. But if you guys are ready to go, man, let's take a look and see what we got for this game, homie. So we got the move D4, one of the best by tests. We got D5. So there's a lot of explanation I'm going to be kind of putting forth in this particular opening. So obviously, well, not obviously, but the first move, we got D4. It's one of the central moves, right? So it's trying to take over C5 and E5, right? And basically, black is just saying, hey, man, I'm trying to do the same thing you trying to do, homie. So that is what we do see a lot of the times. You'll see E4, E5, D4, D5. Basically, black is just basically saying, hey, man, I'm trying to make the same claim as you are. We do see the move C4. Now, one of the points behind this move is, you know, it's kind of like a similar idea of a Sicilian as black. You're trying to exchange a wing pawn for a central pawn. And, you know, if white goes like so, you do have the option to play the move E4, and you have just established a perfect pawn center. So that is one of the ideas behind it. So to fight against that idea, black is saying, hey, bro, I'm going to go ahead and just go E6. If you take my pawn, I'm going to take a pawn. And, I mean, it's just as, you know, damaging. I'm still controlling this E4 square, so we're good to go. So we do see knight to C3, and this is just reinforcing the idea. We are trying to influence the D5 and the E4 squares. And black basically just says, I'm just doing the same thing as you, homie. We got pawn taking D5, undermining the protection of E4. And then we do see the reestablished with pawn taking D5. Basically the idea that I was telling you guys a second ago. We do see bishop to G5. So you see that for a majority of the time, what white has done is it has fought very, very diligently for D5 and E4. And when you play D4, those are very common squares to be trying to fight for. So, of course, this bishop is pinning down this knight to the queen, trying to see if we can take on D5 or push E4. And then black basically just, you know, counterattacks by doing pretty much some of the same things. I mean, we're pinning this knight down to this king. So, you know, you see that both players are fighting pretty strongly for the same ideas. We do see the move E3, just reinforcing D4, allowing our bishop to escape. We do see H6, and basically Sethuraman, his idea is to just basically break this pin, and then we don't have any more problems with D5 and E4. So after bishop goes back to H4, we do see the move G5, and you can see that black has now broken that pin, so the knight is free to move. And we do so immediately. After the move bishop to G3, we do see knight to E4. So those of you that watched some of my previous video, some of my more recent videos, I've talked a lot about when you go D4, what you are trying to fight for. We got the Nimzos and different stuff like that. So this is definitely one of the dream moves that black is trying to do, go knight E4. And you see that, you know, we do have a lot of pressure on this C3 point. We do see knight to E2. You know, we might have some ideas possibly of taking back here if the knight decides to take back this way. But we are just reinforcing this C3 point. We do see the move H5. And you kind of have to do something, homie, because, I mean, this bishop can get trapped very quickly. If we do successfully push H4, the bishop can only really go to E5. And then we have F6. And you really only are able to kind of sacrifice on C7. You don't want to do that. So we do see queen to A4 with check first. And this is definitely forcing black's hand. The only good move is knight to C6 because this queen to A4 check was attacking this undefended bishop right here. So we got to go knight to C6 and defend it. We do see F3, knight takes G3, and then we decide to actually go pawn takes G3. And it might be kind of strange because you're like, why am I just doubling my pawns? Well, number one, you do have this nice little square for the king, but also what you have just done, and you got to be very careful about these decisions, is you have just opened the H file halfway for your rook. So you got a little something for, you know, doubling your pawns like that. So we do see queen to E7, and this is the novelty of the game. First time we've seen it. I believe, honestly don't remember the other move. There was one other move that was played last year, but this is the first time that this move has been seen ever. It's just giving extra, you know, extra protection to this bishop over here on B4. So it's never a bad thing. We do see king to F2 sliding ever so nicely in their little king pocket. I guess I'll call it. We got bishop to e6, and we're literally prepared to be castled, man. We do see a3. The bishop got to get out of there, homie. And you don't really particularly want to trade here because the knight would just take back. And, I mean, you really haven't done anything to white, and you've just given up a bishop for a knight. It's not always beneficial. So the bishop does come back to d6. We see rook over to c1. You know, we're just adding pressure logically. So you see that white has both of their rooks on either half open, well, literally half open files. And so that is definitely where you want rooks. So that's a very instructive thing. We do see the move h4. It's crazy because this is the best move for black, but it kind of helps white get rid of one of their only weaknesses. I was telling you guys about pawn takes h3 before, and then we do see pawn taking h4, pawn taking h4. And, I mean, white has kind of gotten rid of, you know, the issues that they kind of had with their pawn structure. So, I mean, it should be good to go. We do see knight to f4, and we're basically asking black, do you want to trade your bishop for my knight? Is that how we're going to roll? It would really make things even going into an endgame. So, I mean, of course, black is not going to want to do that. We do see queen to g5, and, you know, you kind of have a little bit here if you are black. I mean, you definitely are placing this check on g3. There's not really a whole lot that white can do about it legitimately. So, I mean, you got a little something, something. We do see the fearless bishop to b5. You got to be fearless in this position to play bishop to b5. It's definitely one of the best moves, but like I said, this check is coming here. So I think a lot of people would just be like, hey, man, I'm going to go knight c to e2. I'm just going to protect this point, which is definitely a move as well. But, I mean, you don't really want to block your bishop. So that's why we see bishop to b5. Plus, bishop to b5 definitely comes with its own set of threats. And that is actually why we see SP go bishop back to d7. So you might be wondering, like, can't you just go queen to g3 here, though? You absolutely can. It does force white into a particular situation. If we do see queen to g3 with check, you are hitting this knight on f4 with the bishop, so g2 can become kind of an issue. So you really want to go king to f1, but then you have the move h3, and you can see, even though black is not castled, you know, you see that, I mean, this rook is kind of coming to life. I mean, the king might be able to kind of step down to e7, get this other rook in. I don't know, man. Kind of looking kind of crazy. But like I said, we did see bishop to b5, and then bishop came to d7. You know, we actually did have a lot of pressure after bishop takes, you know, pawn takes and queen takes. So, I mean, you kind of want to defend that from a human perspective. So, we do see knight c to e2 now, and we're just trying to make sure that this g3 check does not become an issue. And we do see the move h3 anyway. It was always an idea kind of lingering in the position. So, we do see h3. And we have reached the point in the game, you know, Wesley So, he kind of has a lot that he needs to think about in this particular position. So, if you want to pause the video and try to see what move Wesley So plays, go ahead and do so. Okay. It kind of would come to mind. I mean, okay, so this is the thing. You got this work on this half open file, right? And I was telling you guys before about bishop takes c6. Like, what better way than to really get that rolling than to do the move that Wesley So played in the game, and that is rook takes c6. So if you guess rook takes c6, then, I mean, it's absolutely gangster because you realize that you're going to be giving up an exchange, but you got a lot probably coming back to you. You really don't have anything else that you can do other than capturing pawn takes c6, bishop takes c6, and you're kind of you're not in a pickle, but you are kind of in a situation where you need to come up with some very specific moves in this position. What we actually see in the game, which is by far the best move to play, is rook to d8. And, you know, the rook was hit on a8. And you are threatening just to take bishop to takes d7 with check, and you're giving up your bishop. So this was absolutely the best move to make. Now, there was another move in the position that I don't really think anybody's going to come. I definitely wouldn't have guessed this move myself. And it is the move king to e7. And some of you guys are probably looking like, wait a minute. King to e7, like that doesn't even defend the bishop. It absolutely doesn't, but there is a very, very nice counterattack that would come up. Bishop would be taking d7, bishop would be taking f4, knight would take f4, and then pawn takes g2. And this is crazy sharp because there is not a whole lot standing in the way of this pawn promoting. So you have given the bishop up, but you're getting, you know, at least probably a rook in this scenario because the rook is going to have to slide over, and then rook comes down to h1. You see how bad that is. Another option that you had after bishop takes c6 was actually going queen to e7. This is actually not very good because it does allow the move knight takes d5, and you get a very crucial tempo on the queen. So to make a little bit of an improvement, you would probably want to go queen to d8. This actually does allow knight to d5, not with the same oomph, but you see that, I mean, knight can come to f6 here and deflect this queen, and then we are taking right here. So, I mean, rook to d8 was definitely the best option to go into. So we do see knight taking h3, and this bishop is pinned to the king, so we don't have the ability to take right here, and this is hitting the queen. So the queen steps back to g7. We see bishop taking d7 with check, but we have put our rook where we need to make sure that we take back right here. We do see rook over to c1. There's probably not a whole lot of life on this h file, so let's redirect it to the c file. We got king down to e7, knight h goes to f4, and this knight is actually very crucial because it is protecting one of the weak spots for white, and this knight is protecting right here. So we don't really have a whole lot of penetration if we're black. We got queen to g5, queen goes up to b5. You know, we do kind of have some discoveries possibilities. We do have knight taking d5 with check on the king, and if the king moves to the wrong spot, you got another check, and then bye-bye queen. So we definitely don't want to allow that. So we do see queen to h4 with check. Always look for checks, homie. Always look for checks in positions, man. They might just save you. We do see g3, and this is the most comfortable move to make. I mean, you are kind of opening up your king, so you see that Wesley's been playing pretty fearlessly this entire game. But it is just slightly better for white. So you see that it's been a roller coaster for both sides, and they're kind of weathering the storm. So we do see queen to h2 with check. We got knight blocking with g2, rook goes to g8. And this is a lot of pressure on this point, homie. So what do? F4. F4 literally perfectly solves all your problems, and you are good to go. We do see queen up to h5. We do see knight to c3. You know, the knight actually wasn't doing a whole lot on that square. You do kind of have to be paying attention to g3, which was kind of something that you've been having to pay attention to for a while. But knight to c3 is a really good move. You are placing a double attack on this pawn right here. So black has to kind of do something about that. So we do see the move king to e6. Now, an alternative move in this position, definitely based on what I just got done saying, was queen to h3. And you're just adding a little bit of a question mark as to this pawn. Do you want to just go back to e2, which is definitely suggested, but we do see king to e6. Knight goes up to h4, and we are like pretty heavily trying to cut off the queen's ability to kind of put pressure on this point. And we actually see the move f5 by SP. And I think you guys might be wondering, like, doesn't f5 just hang d5 with check? Yes. Absolutely yes. It literally just completely 100% blunders the game away. There really is no recovery. It just allows queen takes d5 with check. And once the king moves out of the way, you do have the move queen takes g8. And you see you're just down an entire piece. I don't know, man. f5. Like, the whole reason the queen went here was to kind of like defend d5 and then the king to e6. So all of the moves before this point really kind of went to protect this d5 square. And then you have f5, which literally blocks all of that. I don't know. But anyways, that is that game. So Malakas see Wesley. So I appreciate everybody that stopped by. You know, just to make a comment. You guys know that I'm a 49ers fan all day, but my cousin does play for the Packers. So I got to have love for the Packers, man. I got a rep for the Packers too, which is a big change because I grew up, you know, not a fan of the Packers at all. But I got to have some love, man. So, yes. Yeah, let me say I appreciate everybody for stopping by. All of my people in the Philippines. Magandang umaga. It is very early morning, so magandang hapon if you see this later on. Magandang araw. Messiah Arcon Makita Kang Muli, I appreciate you guys very much for stopping by. And I honestly don't know any more words in Tamil, but I very much appreciate Nandri for anybody coming from India, or Danyavada. I think that's pretty much all. Dhanabad, if you're coming from anywhere from India, over to Nepal, anything like that. But I appreciate you guys very much for stopping by, and I will see you guys next time.